Hello everybody. Today we're going to be doing some string art. And what that is we'll be using this plank of wood, nailing some nails into it and winding string in a pattern. The nails I'm using today are these. They're brass nails and they are 6 millimeters in length. They are very small. Here's a little bit of a closer look. I have 8 colors with me. 6 in the rainbow and 2 extras, and for that reason we're going to be using this pattern of a hot air balloon. I'm going to use these 6 pieces and cut away the ends and then obviously keep the basket, but that's why I have 6 colors. This is a mallet, a hammer that we'll use for the nails. This is some scissors, and so yeah, let's get started. So the first thing that we want to do is cut out our template. Again, I'm cutting the sides off the template so that I can make sure that I only have 6 spaces to work with because I only have 6 balloon colors. The sides of the balloon are a little too small and they would be a little difficult. I want to make sure this is centered before I start adding my nails. And I want it to be, see this little loop here, that's where you're going to hang it. So I don't want this to be diagonal. I want it to be just centered straight on this plank. And now it's okay to nail directly into this paper template. It's going to help you put the nails in the places that you need them to be, and then you can rip the template off after your nail. So here you'll watch me struggle a little bit because these nails are actually a little too small to handle with my own hands. So I have to get a pair of pliers. You can use a pair of tweezers as well. I recommend a longer nail, either 8 millimeters or 10 millimeters. That'll allow you to hold the nail a little better, but this was a good fix for me since I only had 6 millimeter nails. And then if I bring it up real close, you're going to want to keep the nail a little bit outside the board. You don't want to hammer the nail so far into the board that you can't wind string around it. You want to make sure there's space between the board and the head of the nail so that you can actually tie and wind string around it. So this is just me going around and nailing nails in. I'm starting with all of the marker points, which are locations on this template that lines cross each other, because that's going to help me give myself a guideline by which to tie or wind different colors of string. It really helps to have these first nails in place, and it helps to flesh out what the shape looks like. I'm trying to envision what this template will look like while I'm doing this without the paper, and so I want to give myself as many guiding nails as I can. Here I'm just putting in some midpoint nails. You'll start to notice that I have trouble keeping the nail down with my pliers because my hand is in a strange position. I've decided to put 1 midpoint nail in some and 2 midpoint nails in the others. This is to provide a variety of angles by which I can wind the thread so that there will be more geometric diversity. Okay, so now that we have these, there's something I want to point out here. So I did some changes. I see these two nails here. There used to be one right in the middle. You can sort of see an indent. And I changed that to have two instead. And the reason is I've realized that this was going to create an angle and I wanted more of a curve. So I've gone ahead and just sort of tried to use more nails to make curves on these hot air balloons than there is just sharp angles. And that should help me shape the colors of this balloon. Here, there are 7 nails here, but I chose to only use 5. So these last 2 strings will go on this nail and so on and so forth. Okay, so now we're going to start pulling the template off. This is a pretty perilous task. You'll notice I have to fix a lot of the nails that get pulled off with the paper. However, it is better to do it this way than trying to eyeball the nails position themselves without a template. A tip in this step I found was to use tweezers or pliers like I do and hold down the top of the nail so that the paper rips through it, and that helped me take out a lot of this paper. Again, this craft will take a lot of patience, so just take your time and go with the flow. Make sure to fix any nails. Now would be the time to do it. You'll notice here that I've actually missed one and I haven't seen it yet, but I'll make sure to nail that in later. Then another tip that I have is actually to use a glue of some sort to secure any wobbly nails. Since you'll be tying string around these nails and winding string, there's going to be tension happening, and it might pull the nails loose of the cedar plank. And we don't want that happening for a couple of reasons. One, tension is very important in this craft, and you don't want your thread too loose. And 2, you'll need to make sure that you can tie it somewhere. Okay, so now we have our string. And I'm sort of laying out here where I want this to go. I think I just want a simple rainbow. The extra brown is for the basket, and the darkish purple is for the strings. This is already separated. Normally embroidery floss comes in 6 strands and you can separate it. These are already separated. So what I'm doing here is I am tying a small half knot and making sure the inside of the knot is still a large loop. And then I'm tightening it around the nail that I want to tighten it. I'm choosing a nail in the area where I want to use this color. And then I'm gonna go make sure that this is tight. I'm not pulling too hard, but I am pulling hard enough where I know that the string is tightened and it is not going to come loose. I will also secure it with a little tap of my hammer, and later I will also secure it with some glue. And then I start winding. This basket pattern, there is no pattern that I'm using for winding the thread. I am making sure that each of the times that I wind this thread around the nail, I am making sure that the thread does not escape. So something that helps is if you find that you've wound your string a lot, go use your string and wind an entire circle around the head of one of the pins. That's going to help it stay in place. It's going to anchor that as a spot you can come back to. And I'm just trying to find as many different ways to pass my string over empty board space. I want to fill up this area with as much color as I can, and so I'm using the passes of the string to do that. And then once I am finished, I'm going to use the same technique where I tied off in the beginning to tie off at the end. So I tie a small knot away from the nail, and then I choose a nail head and I loop the knot around it, and then I tie it in place. I will now tuck that string in and secure it with glue so it doesn't move. And I'll move on. Cool, so now I've moved on to the darker string part, and instead of winding it in different shapes, I want to keep the shape of the strings. So you'll see me go back and forth through these strings, and I will keep the darker thread that I have as closely aligned as I can to the pattern of strings on a hot air balloon. I don't want to cross over them to make it look like I'm taking up an area of space, because I want these strings to look like they are actually holding the balloon in place. Again, I am using techniques where I am holding my finger on the head of the nail and wrapping the thread around the head all the way and then back down. And that is a good tip to keep your thread with tight tension. And it is also a good way to keep your thread in the place that you want it to be and not have everything unravel at once. All right, and then I'm going to tie this off. And I'm going to secure these with glue. Okay, so the colors are not separated, and You'll see me have a little bit of trouble with this as I try to separate it from itself. But basically, these threads are a little too thick to wind directly around the nails because they'll take up too much space. The string down here is actually half of this thread. And if you try to wrap the whole thread around the nail, you won't have any space to do more than one wrap. So you just sort of delicately peel this embroidery thread apart, and you can see that each thread has 6 strands. And very gently, you just slowly pull the ends apart, just like so. All right, so now we're going to tie this red in place. And I'm definitely making sure that this is a part of the red area that I want to be in. So I tie it, I secure it with a little bit of glue, and then I'm firstly going to snip the end because we don't want any stray threads. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go around the whole section that I want to be red. And that is because it's going to give me a good base for where I want to place all of my layers. And while this is going kind of fast, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I try to choose nails to wrap the thread around based on their trajectory to one another. So because I want to take up as much empty space as possible, I don't want to go along the same lines that I have before. I want to choose as many different pathways that I can to make this seemingly random and take up a lot of empty space. While I'm doing this, I try to hammer nails to make sure they are staying where they're supposed to be, etc. And then I make sure to press my finger on the top of a nail, tie the cord around the nail, and snip the end. I then go back and hammer anything additionally in case I feel like it really needs to be secured. I don't recommend hammering too hard because you'll accidentally hammer into the board too far and not be able to get it back up. I apologize here for the shaky camera, but here I am just adding a couple of extra nails to secure a way to add thread. One of the nails that I had put in earlier in the red area had too much thread in it, so I was unable to put any other thread on it from a different color. So I needed to add another nail from an extra that I had to do that. And I recommend you do this whenever you can, so that you can, again, create different pathways and angles, but also to make sure that you're not putting too much pressure on any one nail, which might come up and loose your project. I will let you watch this time lapse of me doing this process. Again, the tips are to go slowly and patiently. Make sure that you're paying attention to any of your nails. Make sure that you're trying to keep them all together. Try to cover as much space as possible. You'll notice here that I realized that I did not do the orange correctly. I didn't have enough guidelines for my orange marker, so I have to put additional nails in place that allow me to go back and fix that mistake and put orange in that little triangle, which you'll see me do here in a minute. Alrighty, I am just finishing off this last color here, and you'll see me tie off my string and then cut it and then glue the string in place just to secure it. I think this craft is really great because you can do this in a variety of different patterns and shapes and colors. This is a great thing to let your creativity just run and really zone out and make this what you want it to be. And yeah, this is basically how it looks. I think actually it turned out great. I think the colors of the balloon really show. I think the extra nails on the top of the board really showcase the curve of the balloon. And I think it was a good choice to put 2 there instead of 1. You can see the end pieces here are a little angular, but these curves over here are not so much. So yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.